Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Today's guests are Kyle and Brent Pease. Kyle Pease, a four-time IRONMAN triathlete, has a career total of more than 75 races. Since 2011, he and his brother Brent have competed in races across the country, most recently becoming the first brother duo in history to complete the grueling IRONMAN World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. Born with cerebral palsy, Kyle has strived for life beyond his wheelchair. Through his work with the Kyle Pease Foundation, he's focused on creating opportunities for inclusion in sports for athletes with disabilities. A motivational speaker and greeter at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta, Kyle graduated from Kennesaw State University with a BS in sports management. Brent Pease. Brent began his road to fitness in 2007, training for a 10K. Setting his sights on loftier goals, he went on to compete in complete his first Ironman triathlon in 2010 and has not slowed down. He has since finished more than 100 races, including 10 Ironman and several 70.3 and Olympic distance events. Off the course, Brent is a multi-sport coach with Dynamo Multisport, as well as the executive director of the Kyle Pease Foundation, a graduate of Florida State University. Brent resides in Atlanta with his wife and two kids. The Pease brothers have completed more than 75 races together. I am so excited to welcome Brent and Kyle Pease to the show today.
All right, thank you for having us in there.
I'm so excited to have you guys on. You do things that are near and dear to my heart. I have a competitive fitness background, and I've done many Spartan races as well as many fitness competitions. So I love the whole edge of perseverance and resilience and pushing to a goal and what it brings out in people. And so I just want to help the audience understand your whole backstory. If Brent, you could kind of tell us a little bit about how you guys grew up.
We actually grew up in a, pretty typical house, three boys. Kyle and I like to think we remember it, that we all got along and we were all best buds, and we certainly were, but I think there was plenty of bruises and tears and everything you would expect from three boys in a house. Pretty big sports house. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, so it was Braves, Falcons, Hawks, all the local sports teams, and we all grew up playing sports. And so for Kyle, who has cerebral palsy with spastic quadriplegia, that meant modifying and adapting the way that he played those sports. But it was so much of our youth was centered on that, and it all plays out today as we find ways to compete and kind of share that passion in other ways. So I think the childhood, it feels a lot similar today maybe than not for some.
Well, I really was kind of moved to tears earlier. I was watching one of your videos, and it's very inspiring to see the way you guys grew up, the way you interacted as kids, and that your parents really didn't treat it like it was a tragedy. And so, Kyle, what were you experiencing growing up, and why do you always say where there's a will, there's a way?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head when you gave our parents credit. I think both my mom and my dad really never took no for an answer. So that's how I got into my frame of without the wheel, there's a way. Because even though I'm confined to a wheelchair, I'm gonna find a way to say yes and participate in every activity with my brothers. So whether it was being an umpire, or whether it was playing wheelchair baseball or anything like that, I always found a way to say yes. That goes all the way back to what our parents ingrained in us to help me in every activity that both Evan and my other brother Brent do. So and so it was from a very early age.
I love that, because you focused on what you could do versus what you can't do. And I feel like that's the key, is there's always something you can do, even in the worst of situations. And I love how, Brent, you said that it was a transformational moment for you when you and Kyle did your first race. Can you walk me through that and tell me why was that such a transformational moment?
Yeah, we all react to all the different circumstances in our life differently, and today is no better example of that. We're all reacting to what's going on in the world differently, and how we might be confined to home or the things that we're facing. And so for me, having a brother with a disability, I reacted different than my parents and our other brother. And for me, it always felt like this heartbreak. It felt like it was this very sad and unfortunate situation when, that couldn't have been further from the truth. It took me a long time to understand it. I'm okay. I'm certainly okay with that, because it's also what gave me such a strong relationship with Kyle, that I always wanted to look out for him. I wanted to try and help him, protect him. And the one thing we never really truly tapped into was how to include Kyle in the way he wanted to be included. I mean, look, my parents put him in wheelchair baseball leagues. They made sure he went to school. He got a high school diploma. He went to college. When we went to places like Yosemite, they found ways to carry him up the walking path. I mean, it wasn't like we had this horrible existence. We had a wonderful childhood, but we never got to truly play sports together, not in that way. And so when we did that first race together, when we crossed that finish line together, and I saw that Kyle had put himself through the same thing that I went through, just like your Spartan races, when you've got the team together and you're all going through those obstacles. Kyle and I went through all these obstacles throughout our entire lives. But then in that first race, it was so transformational. It felt like we had tapped into something that we had been craving for so long. And it just opened up this incredible world to us, and something we still continue to enjoy today.
I really love that, because I think that when you do physical feats that are tough and challenging, it changes you in a whole new way. Like, you feel like you could do anything once you've accomplished these things. And you're talking about things that you thought never were possible, and here you guys are. You're finishing Ironman races. What would you like to tell people, Kyle, about overcoming obstacles? How somebody out there that wants to know they have some insurmountable obstacle, what would be your tips on to tell them how can they overcome these obstacles?
I will focus on a couple of key words that really help me to stay motivated. Is just say yes. Just find your yes, and if it doesn't work out, then let's go back to the drawing board and let's come up with another solution. But you always have to find a way to say yes. And instead of looking at our disability or whatever is facing you to focus on the solution. I think that what me and Brent have created with our racing and with the Kyle Pease Foundation, I think we have found solutions for all the athletes that we serve. So just say yes to anything that you're comfortable with is key, and then finding a solution. And then finally, I would say love it. When you're given the opportunity, just enjoy it. Live in the moment, love the moment, and just have fun with it.
And just embrace the moment with like pure joy and gratitude, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. How did you feel, Kyle, when you finished your first race and you made it across the finish line? What were you feeling?
To be honest with you, our very first race that we did together, I had to go to work afterwards. But I think the very first Ironman that we did, I felt I was so tired, I was so exhausted, that I couldn't even see straight. But it was just amazing to cross the finish line with somebody that you love so much. It went and just, see what family and teamwork when they collide. You make a beautiful photograph, and that's what we did during our first Ironman together.
I love that. And you guys talk a lot about team. I was reading some of your articles, and you talk a lot about why together we achieve more and why it's crucial to have a team, and how this really brought this to your, to the forefront. Brent, can you explain this whole message that you guys are putting out?
I think, the most honest conversation that any of us ever have is the one that happens between our ears. And, especially in your world and our world, sometimes that voice can be really negative, and that feedback loop can be really negative. And it's just like you were talking or mentioning earlier, it's I can't do this, or I'm not strong enough, I'm not fit enough, I don't belong. And, having somebody to help you through that, whether it's a group that you train with, whether it's a teammate that you're always doing Spartan races with, or in Kona's case, being together, the sum is greater than the parts. And so what Kyle and I can share with each other, especially Kyle to me, we actually were talking to somebody yesterday, and, I made the statement. I said, it always sounds like when we talk, it sounds like all I ever want to do is quit, and all Kyle ever has to do is convince me not to quit. But the reality is for me, it's really hard to carry somebody for 140.6 miles of racing. But for Kyle, whose body is confined to a wheelchair 16 to 18 hours a day, it's really difficult for him to race like that. And so not only is he trying to keep his body, but he's trying to keep my mind in the places it needs to be to do those physical tasks. So, whatever it is that you're doing, having somebody there that's truly supporting you and pushing you on the path that you want to be on is always so much easier. And sometimes I think I actually have a competitive advantage over the people we're next to, because they don't have that positive feedback loop to combat the voices in your head that are telling you the things you can't. And that's Kyle. And that's always been what really helps provide us our success.
And it's just really funny, like that you say that in that way, because when I watched the video before I ever read anything about you guys, I literally had this vision of what is each role for, what is Kyle's role, what is your role in the whole race, and I could see that carrying, pushing a wheelchair, I know like just pushing myself is hard. So I could see that he was giving you a why, and that reason why, and that motivating part to be able to do an Ironman. Most of us haven't even done an Ironman. And also equally, I could see that Kyle was racing at the best of his ability. And it was so inspiring. It like literally just watching the video moved me in so many different ways, really. What do people say what are some of the most inspiring moments of your guys' racing together?
I think for me, just being out there and being able to compete with Brent and to share moments together, it also encourage the other athletes. They always say, well, inspiration, Superman, but I also say you too, because they're doing the same race that we are, and they're giving it their all too. So, of course, I love encouraging Brent and helping us to get to each finish line, or but just to see all the other athletes giving it their all too is very motivating to me.
I love that you said that, because it just made me really think that we're all running the same race. We're all running the human race, and we're all in it together. And that's why supporting one another is huge. What did you feel, Brent, has been one of your most like inspiring moments?
You know, there's been a lot. I remember there's a guy that came by us in 2012 at one of our first long course races. So, you know, a race that was going to take us, 6+ hours. And Con, I still talk to him every time we come out with a new bike kit, he buys it, but it was the words that he said to us, but just the way that he talked to us. But the one that really stuck with me was actually at the IRONMAN World Championships. There was a guy there, Marcus Cook, and Marcus had lost 240, 260 pounds. And he was one of these other people that his presence was felt on the island. And Kyle and I never got the chance to meet him all week. We were there all week. We really wanted to meet this guy. We were at different events at different times. And at mile 102 on the bike, so 10 miles to go, which for some people, just for reference, for Kyle and I, that was going to take close to 40, 45 minutes. And for this guy, Marcus, it was going to take him 35, 38 minutes. And he rolled up next to us, and he slowed down, and he looked, and he said, "Pease brothers." He goes, "I've been looking for you guys all day." And we said, "Marcus, we've been looking for you, man. We need some of your energy." And he said, "I needed yours." But that's really the best way to illustrate it. It's those moments where, just like you just said, Linda, that we're all in this same race together. It's the moments when people recognize that. It's not just driving, riding by or running by and yelling to Kyle, "That's inspiring," or "You're awesome." It's not Kyle shouting back to them. It's that moment where they slow down long enough to recognize that they're next to somebody doing the exact same thing as them. And how many times in life have we all, we've been competitive. We want to beat the guy or the girl next to us. We want to do a little bit better than the person when really we're trying to do the same thing. And sometimes recognizing that means a lot. And that had such an impact on us. And so there's been lots of moments like that over the years, but that was always one that, while recent, certainly has stuck with me quite well.
And I love you put that beautifully. I think about the camaraderie of all the fitness competitors, like before we're doing like a routine round on, and just that we all were in it together. And now like we're all friends for years and years, you build deep friendships, because I think it takes a special kind of grit and resilience to compete at an athletic level. And if you guys, if Kyle, you could speak a little bit to this resilience, this grit, and tell us what do you do to be so resilient?
I think it's I don't want to be too self-centered, but I think it's in my DNA. And like I mentioned earlier, a part of that goes to my parents, and it helped me to look at life from a positive point of view. It have a positive attitude when you're going about your day and your life. But look, Linda, we all have challenges that we face. You might have a challenge, or vice versa, and we tackle it, differently, but we still get the same result. So I think it's just how you look at it, and I look at my disability as an opportunity to show the world that I'm able to do it. It might look a little bit differently, but I'm able just to have as much joy and as much fun doing it a different way, but in the end, I still get the same result. So I think those two words, resiliency and grit, are two of my favorite words, because it really displays who I am. It really what Brent and I stand for.
So how do you feel that people can find opportunity in disability, or opportunity right now during the COVID virus, pandemic? How can we find opportunity in disability?
Sure. It's hard, it's hard for all of us though. But really with the disability, it definitely magnifies. I can't leave my house. I'm very independent. I'm very stubborn. I get on public transportation and go to work independently, and now that's been kind of taken away. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to reach out to somebody and let them, or ask them to tell you their story, and you can learn from them. And it could be your best friend, and you could learn something new about them. So I think that at this time we can learn a lot about who we are, and that resiliency is definitely coming out, because there are days that I just want to go outside and go back to my normal life, but I don't think that will be the same anymore. And so how do we adapt and use our resiliency to still show the world and show ourselves that anything is truly possible?
And I really love the whole idea of thinking about adversity as an opportunity, and that your struggle becomes your strength. And I just think those messages are powerful. You don't have to speak a lot of words. You're in a living example. And I think, Brent, you have such a heart. I mean, just like watching you with your brother spoke to me volumes. How we could be more in service of one another. And what does being in service to Kyle, what does that bring you? Because I feel like it brings you something.
No, it absolutely does. And I think that's true for everybody when we do things that are bigger than ourselves, and when we get out of our own way.
Right.
Just think about, when we were kids, my dad used to take us to a homeless shelter to volunteer and do meal service. But you would go there as a kid, at least I did. I would go kicking and screaming. I didn't want to do it. It was taking me out of my comfortable home and whatever I had going on. But then you'd leave and you'd feel better. And so I have my own family. I have a job. I have things that I'm responsible for. But taking time to share something that's special to me, exercise, basically, with Kyle, makes it a more powerful experience, and it opens me up and allows me to look and see it through his eyes and through a different lens. I think being able to find things that can be bigger than yourself is just such a wonderful way to live, and a wonderful way to always give yourself that grateful feeling, just like leaving the homeless shelter. I never left there with the same attitude I came in with. And it's obviously left an impact. So I've never left a race, even the worst ones that I've had with Kyle, even the ones that we've struggled through. I've never left those with the same feelings of the negative feedback loop that we talked about earlier. Those negative thoughts, they dissipate at the finish line. You realize what you've done for somebody else and for yourself in that process.
I love that so much, and just something bigger than all of us. And right now I feel like, we're in this human race, and many people are dying, and, many people are getting the virus. And this whole thing is bigger than just any one of us. And that's why it's so important to really learn the lesson that you guys learned, which is to pull together.
For sure.
I love that.
For sure.
So with the races, Kyle, what do you do to train for an Ironman?
So normally for Ironman, Brent and I come together on the weekends about 12 to 14 weeks out, we break it down into a 20-hour weekend, so 10 hours on Saturday and 10 hours on Sunday, and the majority of that time is spent on the bike. Because the bike is our greatest equalizer. I'm in a very uncomfortable position for 8.5 to 9 hours, so we spend the majority of the time on the bike and making sure that I'm as comfortable as I can be, and we really stress my body out to the mat so that I can get used to race conditions.
What do you do? What do you do, Brent, to get ready for the race?
It's a full-time job almost, which that's the part we all love. You know, we all wish we could quit our day jobs and just do this all, you know, Spartan races and weightlifting and strength and exercise all the time. But for an Ironman, it's for me, it's about 20 to 25 hours a week as a normal standard. And then, like Kyle said, in those last few weeks, we make sure to get together so we can stress my body a little bit and stress Kyle and callous the mind a little bit. And I don't know if you've ever read any of David Goggins stuff, but you know, he always talks about callousing the mind, and that always resonated with me.
It's all right here.
Right. For sure.
It's all right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I bring somebody along that, you know, helps make my mind stronger as much as my body. So, you know, it's a 7-day-a-week process. It's 2 or 3 swims a week, 2 or 3 bikes a week, and 2 or 3 runs a week. So, you know, if you do the math, obviously you've got more than one session on a lot of days. So my hardest days are always where I'll do a bike and a run and then come back later and do a strength session. So it's finding the time, it's finding the patience with yourself and with everything else you've got going on. But it's, you know, that's also the enjoyable part, because, you know, it's life's a marathon, and so is this journey for Ironman. And so you find you don't wake up with this instant gratification every day. It's 6 months later, you go, gosh, I'm in such good shape because I never gave up for 6 months. I just went after it all the time, every single day, 7 days a week, 25 hours a week, and look at where my body is and my mind is. And that always, it feels good. Sometimes I even enjoy the training more than the actual racing part. There's a little bit less suffering, at least.
I love the journey of it all. I really do. I just think you almost have to do some kind of a feat like that to really understand what it really gives you. And I think it's not just a physical, like doing a journey, but it's like you're reaching a goal, you're showing yourself what you can do, what you're capable of, what you're made of, you know, your grit, determination, your resilience, all of it right there. How can people, you know, like train for this? What do you, what type of nutrition are you eating right? Or are you eating 3 pizzas a day?
You know, when we talk to kids, Kyle and I do some motivational speaking. When we talk to kids, we usually bring a slide that shows the stuff we eat during a race. And it's like Skittles, Swedish fish, you know, chocolate ball. I mean, it's just, we eat like small children because, you know, in an Ironman,
for quick energy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm burning 10 to 15,000 calories over the course of a race. Kyle is burning, you know, 6,000 to 8,000 calories, you know, we've estimated. So you can't replace that. You know, most of us can barely eat that, can't even eat that in a day. So I try to eat pretty clean when I'm training, you know, but there's certainly days where, you know, I remember one of my hardest training sessions before Hawaii. I went out and rode 120 some odd miles in the North Georgia mountains, and coming home, I just, you know, I could feel my stomach turning. I was so hungry. I'd been in the heat all day, and I pulled into the first McDonald's I could find. You know, I just needed, you know, fries, Coke, burger, whatever I could do. But, you know, for the most part, I try to eat pretty healthy. I've found that that's how my body responds. I do love carbs. Carbs work really well for me. I just respond well. So the baked potatoes, you know, Kyle and I will carry those in a race. In fact, a lot of times we'll go and order them to go from dinner and leave them in the aluminum foil. And it's somewhat disgusting, I guess, but we carry them in our jersey, and about halfway through, we'll start just nibbling on baked potatoes. So it's just, it's, I've figured it out. You know, people ask me sometimes, like, can you, you know, work with me or tell me? I'm like, look, I've tried a lot of things. I've tried, you know, every different diet you can imagine. And it's just kind of trial and error and figuring out what helps my body respond without overdoing it, you know, meaning I don't come home and eat a cake and a pizza every night. So.
Well, we eat really clean until stage day, and then it's all kinds of weird things. And the night before, we get to have wine. The day of, we eat gummy bears or
Beautiful.
Swedish fish like you do. And it
Yes.
really, the first time I did it, I couldn't even believe how it made your body pop and gave you energy for your routine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, I'm a believer. Hook me up with the gummy bears and the Swedish fish.
That's right.
So Kyle, what do you follow for nutrition? Is this pretty much what you do? Is a lot of carbs?
Yeah.
Don't take nutrition advice from
Kyle. No, don't take, but for a race, when I'm in race season, I try to up my water intake and really try to eat well and eat a lot of carbs and stuff. But when I'm not in race season, it's pretty bad. So like Brett said, don't take any nutritional advice from me because I'm not the guy for that.
Oh my gosh. I love all the, you know, the training and the eating right. But like Brent said, it really comes down to mental toughness. So what do you do, Kyle, to try to work on being mentally tough? So, you know, like when you feel like quitting, what do you say to yourself?
I really say, I think I can. And then I really think about all the naysayers that told me that I couldn't make it, or but I guess I think about my everyday life, because every day is a mental challenge for me, as far as, you know, having my caretakers to come in and wake me up and put me in the wheelchair and feed me and help me to the restroom, and so every day is a challenge. So I guess think about, you know, I draw upon, you know, all those examples that have helped me get to race day. And then when I'm at race day, my job is to be a teammate and to be a brother. It's a focus on helping both of us get to the finish line.
What's some of the things, Brent, that Kyle says to you while you're racing that really motivate you?
Do you have an explicit rating on this podcast?
No, you didn't say it.
No. So I'll tell you two stories. One is at the IRONMAN World Championships. They just don't have a lot of lighting on the island, so it's not like driving down the highway in Atlanta where it's all lit up. So we were coming up the Queen K Highway, and this is on the back half of the run, and our coach was up ahead, and he couldn't see us yet because it was so dark, but he could hear Kyle screaming at me. And this is after, you know, almost 13 hours of racing. And he said the things that were coming out of Kyle's mouth still haunt him thinking about it. But it changes all the time. Like, you know, what I need and what Kyle needs is constantly shifting. And so Kyle's daily struggles come out in the racing where he just thinks through it. And I remember one race, we were in Florida. It was a half Ironman, so a 70.3 mile race. And both of us were exhausted. We'd been in the sun all day. It was hot. It was windy. It was just one of those really tough days on a race course. And all Kyle and I did was count to each other. So we're on the run course and we can't think of a motivating word to say to each other. We can't think of a positive thing to say to each other. And so Kyle would just go 1, 2, and he'd get louder, and he'd get 3, 4, 5, come on. And then he'd start over. And that was all we did. And like, you try to explain that to somebody, and they're like, what does counting do to motivate you? And like, it took our mind off of the things that were bothering us. It took us out of the struggle bus. It took us off the, this is terrible, I don't want to run. And it just let us focus on those little 5 seconds that we were in. And Kyle's learned that, you know, I used to watch him as a kid when somebody would help him go to the bathroom, or I would help him go to the bathroom, and we'd pull up his pants and his boxers would get twisted. I'm like, who can sit through a whole day with underwear that's twisted? And you're like, gosh, Kyle can, because he does it every day. Like, because he can't just reach down and fix it, or he can't adjust his hat like I've done 15 times.
Right.
Well, we've all been sitting here. So those skills come out in every race, and sometimes it's, you know, every cuss word in the book. And sometimes it's calming, you know, it's a calming voice that's very quiet. And sometimes it's just counting. It doesn't matter what your thing is, what your voice tells you, but there's things that you've learned in your life, your adversity, your struggles that play out in other areas. And I love waking up on race morning, wondering what bag of tricks he's going to bring to keep me positive and keep us going in the right direction.
I love that. I love the whole idea of motivating each other. I really think if we could all learn that in our own lives, we'd all be better off. How can we find our own finish to any challenge that we have started? How can we find our finish?
I would say the best advice that I found to be most helpful is just keep persevering. Just, you know, if you believe in it and you're passionate about it, embrace it and go after it. You know, wherever we have a project, you know, there's going to be times throughout that challenge that there will be different obstacles that will be put in our way. But we just have to don't look at the whole project, but look at a section by section, and then just begin to knock them down, and then you will find the finish. So stick with it and focus on what you can control, because the only person that is stopping you from getting to your finish is yourself. And once we remove those barriers, then the sky is the limit.
Wow, that was so good. I think that needs to be the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
What would you say, Brent? What would you say? How do we find our finish?
Kind of hard to top that one, isn't it?
I know.
No, Kyle's exactly right, though. It's staying in it when you don't think you should. I mean, we wanted, you know, this IRONMAN World Championship thing was such a big deal for us, but it took us almost 7 years to get there. And there were a few times where we both wanted to give up. And there was even one day where I tell the story that my alarm went off at 3:30 in the morning for a race, and I didn't want to get up, and I just was laying there feeling sorry for myself, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And that was the day they surprised us with an entry to the World Championships. They gifted us at the finish line. And Kyle and I talk about it all the time. Imagine if I had given up in that moment. So it's when we're at the edge of what we don't think is possible that you have to take one more step. And you have to keep going, because that's where it's waiting for you. The easy way for all of this is to sit down and stop in anything that you're doing, to stop making the time and the energy for whatever it is that drives you. And that's when you should absolutely keep going. So Kyle says it best, get yourself out of the way first. But I think for all of us is when you find yourself in a tough situation is to keep moving forward.
I love that. That was well put too. Oh my gosh, you guys are killing me today. I have to say, you've inspired me to no end, because I've had my own adversity of most of my limbs have been ripping from the pelvis for the last, I don't know if I want to say year and a half. So I was going to give up the fitness routine part of competing. And I said it to my husband one night. I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to quit. And then the next morning, for whatever reason, randomly, I picked a tune, and it really spoke to me about not quitting, and just this, you know, whole idea of we all have a superhero inside. And you feel at some point that you've lost that superhero. It was kind of the song.
Yeah.
And so all this music, I was like, oh my gosh, I just found my routine music. I'm totally going to do it again. I'm just going to find, like Kyle said, I'm going to find a solution to my obstacle and work around the issue I was having, why this was going on. And so you guys inspired me today. And
thank you.
yeah, I mean, you guys are you're the dynamic duo for sure.
Well, at least one of us is. The other one just follows them everywhere.
I don't know about that.
Gosh. So I love that so much. What is, Kyle, what is your favorite quote? Do you have one?
Yeah, I think it's FDR when he talked about speak softly but carry a big stick. That's what I really thought. Yeah. I'm sorry. Make sure that you edit that. Yeah, but it just remind me of all the challenges that we have faced together as a family, and how you let your edges go before you. And I think that's what Brent and I are trying to do every day of our lives, is to make our community a little bit better than it was yesterday. And it's hard during the virus, but I think, like I mentioned earlier, just reaching out to people, we just try to put a smile on their face.
I love that. What is your favorite quote, Brent?
Somebody actually reminded me recently, Kona, I spoke to a group of middle schoolers, and one of the headmasters introduced us and pulled out my senior quote. It was actually the school I went to, and it was Vince Lombardi, and he said that the true measure of man is his dedication to excellence, regardless of his chosen field of endeavor. And had I known writing that at 18 years old that I would be trying to live that 20 years later, then I think I would have told you I found some success at some point. So that one's always resonated with me.
I love that. And mine is, one of my favorite is tough people. I mean, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Good
so
one.
Yeah,
just like, this is a tough time right now, but we got to get tough to get through it.
yes.
Absolutely. That's great.
I love that one.
And I hate to go, but I've got somebody popping on it any minute now.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time. This was
wonderful. Thank you, Rita. I appreciate it.
You guys are the best. I have loved this episode, and I'm going to stay connected with you because you guys are such an inspiration.
Send us your address, and we're gonna send you.
Beyond the Finish, you guys. Yes. They have a book. You can carry on the inspiration with this book, Beyond the Finish. Can they get it on Amazon?
Amazon and our website.
And where can they follow you?
So if you go to kylepeasefoundation.org, all our social media is there, and we've got a nice blog and everything else we're supposed to have in this current age. So especially in these times, there's tons of ways to connect with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and being so brave and inspirational. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Sisterhood of Sweat. Bye everybody. Bye you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.